Welcome to another episode of The Anderson Adventures. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about our solar setup and what we do to conserve power in the trailer while we're off grid. Especially in winter days, it can be really difficult to keep everything charged up and be able to use the power that you want to use throughout the day. So we have to really be careful about what we're using, when we're using. Otherwise, we just have to run the generator, which we do have. So I'm going to start inside a little bit and give everyone a tour of what we're using for batteries, what we're using for charge controllers, and then I'm going to move outside and talk a little bit about solar panels and our redundant backups for power, because you should have a redundant backup if you're planning on being off-grid for any extended period of time. Right now we have two MPPT charge controllers. These are both the Renogy Rover Elite models, and we've got one that is for the truck and one that is for the trailer. Now we have 400 watts of solar on the truck and 400 watts of solar on the trailer, and I'll talk about that a little more in depth when we get outside. I also have two shutoffs for the positive of each charge controller. So this is from the positive coming from the solar panels, and the reason why we did that is sometimes you run into issues where the BMS on the battery will trigger the charge controller to not put out any electricity. So if you turn them off for a few seconds and then turn them back on, all of a sudden everything works again. So we've used that to solve some issues, and it also allows us to work on things without having as much risk of damaging any electronics. Moving down, we have a Renogy 3000 watt pure sine inverter. This thing has been absolutely awesome. We're really happy with it, and it runs just about anything we need to run in here. That being said, if you can see this, it is off right now. The reason we have it off is because if you have that on, it's actually putting out a pretty big draw, and since we have our Starlink plugged into it, it actually draws a lot of electricity. So we only turn it on when absolutely necessary, which 90% of the time we really don't need the internet going. We don't need all this other stuff running, so we leave it off and turn it on only when necessary. You won't be able to see it, but in this cabinet down here we have three 100 amp hour lithium batteries. We actually have 6 of these batteries and may be installing more in the future. However, we ran out of room in the cupboard and need to build some kind of a rack setup to add more batteries, as well as relocate a bunch of wiring and possibly even the factory fuse box and all of that. So we really don't want to do that, so I think we're just going to try to work with what we have for the moment and possibly add a couple more solar panels, probably in the form of a briefcase panel. So let's go outside and talk a little bit about the solar panels themselves. As you can see, the sun isn't really out today, and that's the way it's been for the last few days. So we have been struggling to get enough electricity. So we have 4 100 watt panels on the roof of the truck. We also have another 4 100 watt panels on the roof of the trailer. This means that we can park the trailer in the shade, and we're able to park the truck in the sun during the warmer months. We picked up some stuff on Amazon to make all of this happen. Let's walk right over here. So this is just a 10 gauge cable that I picked up. I 3D printed a little adapter here that'll allow us to put this cable in, and then siliconed it. And these are just like generic EV plugs that you'd use on like a golf cart or something like that. I picked these up on Amazon, and we've been really happy with them. So what does this mean for our solar setup during the winter? This is the first time we've been able to test our solar setup completely off-grid in a climate like Oregon, where it is Well, yeah, that's right. It's cloudy as heck. And unfortunately, we're not getting enough electricity from what we have. I think we're going to be upgrading and adding a few briefcase panels in the future, maybe just 2 of them. I'm looking at the Renogy 200 watt briefcase panels and the stand that comes with them. Those do include a charge controller built in, kind of like a ZAMP panel, and I'll probably use the same EV plug that I used on the trailer, and that should do the job. Now, for the meantime, what we've been doing is using the, let's move around. Oh, I forgot. We have a bunch of stuff here. Meet our dirt bike garage right here. And yes, we do have the trailer hooked up to the Discover. We don't tow it like that. Zoe tows it with the FJ. However, Zoe's out in town right now and we didn't want to drag the trailer with her, so we're just going to leave it connected to this just in case I need to hook up the bikes and take off in an emergency. I would use it in that case, but we're not right now. In the bed of the truck, we have a Westinghouse 4500 watt generator. This is a dual fuel generator. So we have a propane tank back here and we actually run it in the bed of the pickup. You can see there's really nothing in front of the exhaust to worry about. So we run it back here, and that also helps keep some of the stuff in the bed of the truck warm. Lately, we've had to run it for like a couple hours a day to charge up the batteries enough to fill up at night. But in the future, I'm hoping to not have to run this thing at all. It's a learning experience. So we also have a redundant backup here. We have the propane, and this propane tank, you can see, is about that full right now because that is where the condensation is sitting. So I have used quite a bit of propane in the last few days. I think Zoe's going to be picking up another bottle today so that we have some more. But we also have a 3.4 gallon tank on the generator itself, and I'll be filling that up this afternoon. We can go for a couple weeks without a fill up on the generator, and that's using both the propane and the gas. We'll use all of it. If we're going to run gasoline through it, we try to run it all the way empty every time we have to run it. That way we're not using stale fuel 6 months down the road. So we run both gasoline and propane through it pretty much on a bi-weekly basis. We're running the generator a little bit, and we really don't want to be. Today's the clearest day we've had in 4 or 5 days, and you can see it's not even that great. We do have a couple little holes in the sky, so we're getting a little more solar than we would otherwise. I'm hoping to not run the generator too much today. But on average, we've been running it for 2 to 3 hours a night just to keep the batteries charged. And that's been enough to keep the batteries maintained and keep us comfortable inside. Some of the things that we do to control or monitor the electricity usage. We actually leave the power inverter off, like I mentioned, but we also have all of our lights compartmentalized, meaning we have smaller lights for each section of the trailer that we can use rather than one large light to light the entire trailer inside. We also don't run our phone chargers off of anything that is running off the power inverter. So we plug straight into DC outlets for the for anything that we can charge off of a USB, because if you're converting from DC to AC and then back to DC again, there's a lot of efficiency loss there. You're losing a bunch of energy. It's not a crazy amount, but it's enough to where it can make a big difference in your usage. So the other thing is we recently switched to the diesel heater. That does draw a little bit of electricity on startup, but what we've noticed is our consumption isn't that much greater. From what I can tell, it's pulling like 4 to 5 watts max when we have the thing cranked all the way up. During startup, it pulls a little more, but that's not too bad. So we're pretty good there. we're really happy with the efficiency there. And this time of the year is probably going to be the most difficult time of the year for us because we're unable to get the solar we need, which really makes me think maybe we need to explore other options as far as panels go. Like I said, we might be looking into some briefcase panels and adding that to the arsenal. That way we could aim them directly at the sunlight and hopefully get a little more power out of them. But we'll see what we can come up with. Thanks for watching.